welcome to the governance discussion for October 28th. I wanted to start with governance 1.0 stuff and go over another round of community rep boost that I think we should kind of start talking about and doing. So remember, this was a program we started at the beginning of September to kind of proactively reward community contributors that are helping in a whole bunch of different ways. And so we concluded that, I think, with 10 new addresses. That was, people like CL, like some people like Finn, Zet, before kind of coming on. And so I think it's a good way of doing that. And so then I posted, actually, I'm going to share my screen quickly. So I posted a new post to that thread to try to kickstart the process again. So these were ones that I think people had talked about elsewhere. So I think DCC1, who's been really helpful in the Omen community, doing a bunch of things. Peppo, I think this was like kind of in working with Nylon. I remember thinking about some of the rep mapping efforts specifically and how coming up with, I think, the solution for that. Keo was mentioned, Matt B for fresh perspective and calls, and I wanted to say something about the trading and random chat, but I thought it would be a little bit more buttoned up. And then Crypto Larimer, who is someone who actually is a podcast that did kind of, or it's a YouTube podcasty thing, and did like 25 minutes on DXgov for the CIS or Russian community. Pulp Machina, who I think had a really great discussion that kind of kicked off last week. And then Mad Max, who's kind of been doing that elsewhere. So this was kind of just meant to kickstart the discussion. I don't know if anyone has any kind of additions or like thoughts. Obviously there aren't kind of numbers around this, but we can kind of use the prior round as a precedent.
You skipped the one that's on this call.
Who?
The one in the middle.
Oh, well, Nylan got it last time.
No, Matt.
Oh, I had Matt on here.
You didn't mention him though.
I did. I said that he. I heard. I wanted to put the random in the trivia, or in the. I wanted to put the contributions to the random in the trading Keybase, but I thought that was too in the weeds.
Wait,
and I couldn't also find your screen name on DAO Talk, so I didn't at you there. I wasn't sure. Not everyone had like relevant, and neither would DCC1. But thoughts, omissions, and maybe about the process, Sky. I know that the process, we kind of submitted it on behalf of people last time. Maybe we don't want to do that this time, or anything we want to kind of do to set another precedent on how we kind of do these rounds.
Yeah, the process, like ideally it'd be better if individuals did it themselves, like after this consensus, but then it's an ask like by the person, and that kind of goes against the logic of it. It's for most people, it's their first rep. It would be good. It's a good way for them to learn how to do it. But at the same time, there's something nice about the DAO doing it without them being involved in the asking process. That's kind of like the beauty of it, is that they don't have to ask. It's being given to them by the DAO. So depends what people think about that. You get a little extra rep if you do it yourself. You learn how to do it, but it's not that difficult. But there's a niceness about the DAO just giving it to these people.
Yeah, I agree. One way we could do it is while we actually approach them with like, hey, the community wants to give you rep. Explaining that if they actually request it by themselves, they will just earn more reputation. But then, like, I think while we approach them and like tell them about the rep boost, we can just inform them about that they can request it by themselves and earn more rep. And if it's not happening, we still have the address, and then we just proactively do it by ourselves. I think it's quite important that it's like a very strong signal from us that we're like, we invite you now. And it's like, yeah. So it's like, I still think it's an important signal that we are proactively care about expanding the membership size and the decentralization.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have people's consent on taking the rep and kind of also to indicate that they actually want it, right? I guess we need that anyways because we need to get their address in most cases, right? But,
yeah, well, seeing as how I guess maybe I'm on the list. Is that right?
You made it, Matt. You made it.
Cool. I accept. I humbly accept.
Wait, aren't you Mad Max? I thought you were Mad Max.
Two
awesome.
different.
So that's great.
I don't think so, because there's a Mad Max in the Keybase too. I'm pretty sure. So I think it's both. But actually, Augusto does bring up a good point. So, like, I did going through the proposals. There's people like BlockRocket and I guess AltPL or Phil the Auditor, people that are kind of definitely contributing to DXDAO. Those are done, I guess, through more. I guess we would call this just worker compensation agreements. And so I don't know if we also want to kind of do a separate rep award, or if that kind of, because they're getting a compensation agreement with the DAO, does that mean that the rep shouldn't or should come with that? Or how are people thinking about those contributors?
Yeah. Well, what would be cool, so the second payment for BlockRocket, we had them do it themselves, so they are getting some rep there. Like, we're not asking for rep as part of the execution of the agreement. But Phil, like, if he, like, we should signal to him that these proposals, like, if he wants it and wants to be involved and wants rep, he can be submitting those proposals himself. And there's quite a few of them, so he can build up rep that way, in addition to potentially receiving rep as worker compensation. But a rep boost also works if you could do it's rep boosts are always on top of worker compensation rep.
Yeah, just I think it will be awesome to have someone else feel involved in the community. But yeah, then it's the question if he really wants it. So we should communicate to him or invite him to get involved, that we will give him rep just to be involved in some decisions that involve security and technical discussions.
Yeah, the other topic related to this is, which Martin kind of brought up in the last round, is like, how do you decide how much these rep boosts are, right? And is there a process to that? And I kind of outlined some of the factors that went into the process last time, but they are up for interpretation. So the question is, as part of should we have a certain amount of rep that goes out every 2 months or every quarter, and like rep boosts make up what isn't given out through worker compensation? Like, there's a pot that's left and that's what's given out from rep boosts or something. So you have like a targeted inflation.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal. I think we're a little too early to like solidify those. I actually think we're kind of building up precedent to be able to like create a structure like that it could be more sustainable and kind of like operating on its own. But I just don't think we know enough about like the rep distribution kind of component at this point to solidify that amount.
Yeah, and it's I see it similarly to the bottom-up approach about evaluating which experience level someone is in like a working group. For example, at Omen, we need to ask around, and everyone is actually defining what kind of level they think the others are. So, and that's kind of similar to like the person who promoted someone for a rep boost, I think this person kind of have a feeling about how much it should be, depending on like the work they did. So it's pretty difficult to set a number in general. Like even like with different type of work, different type of evaluation. So it's still like a bottom up trust approach.
Yeah, but the good thing is we know, and this was, I outlined these factors, like assuming we don't really put monetary amount attached to rep, like we know what's earned for a proposal that it's submitted. We know what's earned for a month of worker compensation. We know like some number that is enough that makes their vote feel like it counts, but not big enough, bigger than a monthly worker proposal, right? So, and if they've been doing work for like 5 months or 6 months, like Matt did last time, and never got any rep, like the reason he got 0.3% rep is because it's been it was many months of work like that, right? So the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3% for exceptional seems reasonable for this scenario at this point in time until we make changes to other variables.
Augusto, I think I think it's an interesting idea if we did do a fixed amount of rep, and I think we would be able to only do that if we made these regular, and so it would be like that's basically like months contributions or something, right? And it would be tied to that. But I don't know if you want to speak more about that.
Yeah, I think that if we try to measure the contribution from each individual that is going to receive rep boost and compare against each other, we are going to be discussing over that for hours. So it would be better if we just, I mean, what's the goal here? The goal here is to increment our rep distribution, right? So to distribute rep to individuals that we consider important in our community. So we decide we choose a list of individuals that are going to receive rep every 2-3 months, and we give them a fixed amount of rep, and that's it. At least we begin. I think that's a good way to begin till we figure out how our rep inflation would like to be managed, because this hasn't been signaled by DXgov ever, right? So I think a fixed amount of rep, like in a relative percentage, like saying 0.1% or 0.05% for each individual that is including the rep boost list every 2-3 months. I would do it that way just to make everything easier.
What if someone created so much more value than anyone else in the list?
Then they do a worker compensation proposal.
Or he creates a proposal saying, hey, I've been doing this and this and this and this. I think that I deserve more rep. And if the DXgov agrees, he will give him more rep. But at first, a minimum amount for just acknowledge the contribution that the individual has done, I think that's good enough.
Because in 6 months, it'd be great if we were doing this for like 50 addresses, right? And so I think we've got to figure out how we could scale that while minimizing like the decision-making capabilities and not getting caught up in like doing a rep valuation of someone's contributions.
Yeah.
And that's something through maybe that's through the worker compensation one where we actually have more of a structure for that.
Yeah, 0.1% sounds like a good number. The reason why it was very different last time is because it was the initial time and it was counting many months have passed. But from that point to this point, 0.1 seems easy, reasonable, and much like a good time saver. Sure.
Yeah, and I would love to see someone asking for more reputation and getting like pushback, saying, "Hey, I think I should receive this amount of rep," and like try to find the limit there on our contributions, on our rep contribution. Just to start putting some boundaries there. I think that would be very interesting.
So, and someone who is contributing that actual regular proposal may involve some value like ETH or DXD plus rep. Like that, it wouldn't be surprised if it included both if they were actually contributing to the DAO, right?
Yes, I don't know the limit. I mean, I don't know. It will then the DXgov will decide if the amount is right. But yeah, he can ask for an extra compensation on top of the rep boost. I think the rep boost already give you a lot of validation about saying, hey, you already did something very valuable to us. So here you have some rep. But if I receive 0.1 rep and I say, hey, I've been doing more than this, so I can share what I did, or I can express my feelings in DAO talk, saying, hey, I would like to receive more rep because I've been contributing more. So
I think having the standard in the guideline is good because it makes it easy for people who maybe aren't confident yet in, whether they can pass something or what they can do. Having like, this is like the standard thing. I think like anything with the DAO, it's a guideline or a standard. And if like the nominator wants to say this person went way above and beyond and deserves more, then like they can always justify that, right? And try to push something bigger.
Yeah, and I think Augusto makes a good point broadly about like how part of the governance process almost is like push up against the limit, because that allows us to actually find like where we should be. And it can sometimes be uncomfortable to go up to the limit, but I think that process kind of helps everyone better understand it. I do remember some good discussion on the first rep rewards for Sky and myself kind of over the summer, which I think actually were ending up being a good for the community to kind of have that discussion. I would recommend anyone, I took some of these like nominations from different people that had said it. So if you have thoughts on specific people, it'd be really great to kind of put a reply on that thread just with maybe some more information about how they've contributed. And then we could kind of figure out exactly, I think the process, we probably individual by individual in terms of how we can do it. But I think in general, we should try to be deferring to getting people involved in the governance process as much as possible. And I think that means trying to create their own proposal.
Yeah, like I'm really curious how it will work with like 50 because like the current how we do it right now is like a 2-sentence description about what they did, and it's like a lot of trust, and it's right now it's working because I actually almost know everyone on the list, and it's kind of like, yeah, I know that everyone is like contributing important stuff to the collective, but I think we also need to start learning to like request more stuff from people who like, not for the rep boost, but like I see it with compensation proposals, like people don't give feedback, don't comment, maybe because it's just like, oh, it will go through anyway. I don't know. But I think it's also important to, like in the Omen team, that the Omen people actually give feedback on DAO Talk, which is crazy. It's like, but it's important. Like we need to learn to be critical and give feedback. And that's actually even in the open, because otherwise we will create like siloed groups and you like others will not know what's going on. But giving like very positive feedback or people who did really great work this month is something which it will be important in the future, because it's like written in DAO Talk and everyone will have access. So yeah, for the rep boost itself, I mean, it's difficult for people who are like spending a lot of time even on Keybase, right? How do you prove that someone is like gave us a lot of feedback on Keybase?
Yeah. Well, let's continue this discussion in the forums. I wanted to move on to just like a proposal roundup, just a way to kind of see what's in the queue right now. So there's a new Mesa update proposal, and there's also a kind of, to the point Geronimo was just talking about, there's a worker proposal for alt PI. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is it's supposed to pass in 2 days, and I'm actually the only one that has voted for it. And I just wanted to check with who proposed it and kind of maybe who boosted it, and get a quick rundown of that and make sure that's a good proposal. Gas was really cheap over the weekend, so anyone comment on the out? I think it's out PI.
I think I know what this is about. I'm pulling it up just to make sure.
There were like a bunch of proposals from them all at the same time, right? So I figured somewhere might have been.
Yeah. So I'll it's now he has his name in the proposal.
Right. That's what I was thinking. He says yeah.
Jikun. He's been working on Omen, and I mean, so Geronimo would be better to kind of speak to what he's been doing.
Jikun?
Yes.
Yes, so Jikun, I think he did a trial of 2 weeks. He's primarily a React Solidity dev. It was a little bit difficult at the beginning, but he matured into a developer who's like really high quality code, and we're actually getting a lot of shit done. So I'm like really happy to have him contributing to Omen.
I think that
he's on the, I think he's now on the 2nd month trial. So he's requesting 90% of his salary for his level 5 experience.
And just to clarify, because Geronimo, you said he matured during the trial, like Jikun actually has a lot of experience. He's got years of experience. He's a pretty senior developer, but I think there was a little bit of a rocky start in terms of, was he actually doing the designs the way they were supposed to, right? But he kind of adapted quickly to what you were expecting and is now delivering.
And he's doing a lot of front end HTML, CSS, but I think like this is not something he should focus on pretty soonish. He's just killing a lot of stuff. So at some point, like Omen will be base app ready, and then he's actually moving on it to things not a lot of people will can do, like adding features of Gnosis Safe, subgraph improvements, and stuff like that, which is in general difficult to find these days. So he's an important asset, and he's providing a lot of value for the Omen team right now.
Cool. And I'm just looking back kind of to Sky's point about several work proposals. I think he is like 2 weeks ago, that 2-week trial, he had 2 separate proposals, one for ETH, one for the DXD, and then this is the next one, which is the month long. So I think that's why that is. I just pasted it in there, but I was just flagging it because I look for signal on those things, and I should have probably been more attuned to that. Next one, just because it's there, and I didn't know what to do with it, was a test proposal that says to stake down. Please downvote. And I wasn't sure if we should be stake down or downvote, if there's something, pasting it in now. If there's anything for that one that we should be doing. I don't know if anyone knows who proposed that. It's in the DX token registry scheme.
Yeah, looking at it, so we have to downstake that proposal. Please downvote this proposal.
Nico, is that you?
Yeah, just to clear up things, like we have been working on a new integration on the security bot on Keybase, which actually analyzes some of the information that is sent along the proposal. And in order to test that, I created a proposal. So it doesn't have any meaning. It is not dangerous. We should just make sure it won't pass.
Cool. And then the last one that is in the queue is the other one that discusses the MOU between Aluna Social and DXgov. And so that's just going on now. And if anyone wanted to speak to it, now would be the time. Or
I was part of this conversation with them. Ingemar helped kind of lead it up. I don't think he's on the call. I think this is a great precedent to set an example of how DXgov can cooperate with other projects who are doing. Augusto, you're furiously typing. I'm going to mute you.
Oh, yeah.
I muted you. So I think there's a great example to set in terms of projects that are doing an IDO on Mesa, then also providing liquidity on DXswap, and that's their plan. And so, kind of what's involved with that. We're talking about basically just like kind of doing a little marketing around that, or like kind of recognition of what they're doing. I think it's an important example because we've seen in the past a couple of projects like MTA and TMM do IDOs on Mesa, and then subsequently seen a lot of liquidity on Uniswap and Balancer, and it would be great, for the profits for the DAO to see that kind of trading happen on DXswap. And if we can set a good example with Aluna here, I think it would be the hope that we'd see more of this in the future.
yeah, and it kind of speaks to some of the like partnership signal proposals that kind of Sky has been working on too. So I think that type of like, and not exactly DAO to DAO interaction, but I think it's a good precedent to kind of try to signal to different communities intentions. Cool. Good.
I was just saying there is like a second part here, which isn't that like it's not binding or anything. It's just continuing the conversation of a possible like further integrations. They're interested in using prediction games as part of their social trading platform. So there's some exploration to do there with the Omen team and some other potential stuff we could do with them. They are a social trading platform, and so they look at exchanges. Maybe we look at Mesa and DXswap and see how those might be integrated into their platform as well. And I think they're maybe even interested in looking at layer 2 stuff. So yeah, different things to talk about with them, different technical possible cooperations that might happen in the future, but just ideas right now around that stuff.
Cool. And then that was it for proposals. And then looking at governance 1.x stuff, I think, Elon, we're going to push the ARC1, ARC2 conversation to tomorrow. And so wanted to just kind of shift to the XDAI discussion and kind of check in on DXDAO and what we're kind of doing there, because I know there's been a lot of activity over the last week.
Yeah, sorry, was there a question at the end, like for me?
What's going on with XX or XDXDAO and the staked gen?
Wait, 1 second. I'm breaking up, so I can't, like, you're breaking up for me.
The people want their gen, Elon. They demand the gen.
No, I'm trying to start the conversation on XDXDAO and whether, I think we're going to switch to a new deployment. And so what's the kind of update or process on there? And I know there's some discussion with Sky on getting funds into the avatar, but I'm not sure of the specifics.
Yeah, if he might be not attached. If Nyla can't hear, so
yeah,
yeah.
So basically, we disconnected the scheme that has these proposals, and I think there's like another proposal to basically put these back. So like people will redeem all their gen back. Don't worry. There probably won't be rewards though. Because there's no sense in funding this DAO and getting that reward. So everyone, I guess, paid that little fee stake, but they're not going to get the. I mean, in one of the calls, we promised hundreds of dollars of rewards, so that's not going to happen. So yeah, that's that. And yeah, we'll do all these fixes, like basically to redeem from the DXDAO, like the XDXDAO, and then we'll redeploy like a new one. So Augusto, basically, so no gen staked or lost. Like you'll be able to redeem all of them back. Everyone is panicking. And Augusto, what happened basically is that we redeemed. So we had a plugin manager that. Okay, so there was a plugin manager proposal, two proposals, one to change the rewards scheme and one to change the plugin manager. And so we redeemed the plugin manager one first. And because of that, it disconnected basically the old plugin manager. Like when you update it, it basically removes the old one and creates a new one. So the proposal to change the reward scheme is basically in a plugin manager that's disconnected from the DAO. So yeah, that plugin manager and the past proposal is kind of like in the ether, and now there's a proposal to basically add it back. It's in the queue there. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but another thing that that was kind of fucked up is that the minimum DAO bounty in the proposal reward distribution, there was like, I guess, a bug in the UI that basically inputted it as way. So when I put like 500 minimum DAO bounty, it's like 500 way. So that's like, 18 zeros, so 0.18 zeros and then 500. So that's the minimum down stake for that proposal. Yeah, but I mean, I think this is great that we've experimented with all these things before actually sending lots of funds and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, but Elon, John was asking me about this, and I couldn't give him the correct answer. Is I understand that like there's something on XDAI DAO that's not being forwarded. If you send funds to the avatar, they're not getting forwarded to the vault. But John is looking at mainnet DAO because we want to understand exactly how mainnet DAO works. And it doesn't appear like when people send funds on mainnet, well, if you look at on Etherscan, if you look wherever, it doesn't appear that there is like a separate vault and a separate avatar. It looks like the avatar holds, which is the DAO address, holds all the funds. Is that not correct? And is it a different? It's because it's the version 1 versus the version 2. Are they different?
Oh, so I actually don't know about that. Like I think it's. I think that part of the architecture is still the same. So I'm not entirely sure. I can ask Oren. Like I asked him a couple of times, but he said like, yeah, basically I re-edited what he said and sent it in the chats. So I'll ask him again, but I don't think there's any difference in that regard.
Because what's weird though is like on mainnet, if you look at the DAO's address, which is the avatar, right? That's where the funds are sitting. So I don't know what the vault address is.
I think it might be an ARC v2 thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, because on mainnet, everything goes straight to the avatar, right? Like, I'm right about this, right, Augusto? Like, I think everything's getting sent straight to the avatar, and we've been able to use the funds on the avatar, right? I don't think there's any. Well, what's the issue so on the XDAI DAO? Can we get the funds out of the XDAI DAO, or is it's fine? But it's just not.
No, there are some funds in the avatar that were never forwarded, and I think those you can't get, right?
Yeah, I think so. There's like, I guess, 1 DAI in there.
5 DAI.
Oh yeah, 5 DAI, right?
Because we were sending to the avatar, which is what we always do on mainnet, which you would do on mainnet. So it's important to understand if they're exactly how both of the systems work, how both versions work. Because if we could have easily sent $10,000 to the avatar on XDAI. But
thankfully, good job testing first.
People are going to have the same issue on mainnet, though. So mainnet understanding is also maybe we should test also.
Oh yeah, man, so we could have lost much more than 5 if we sent more to
Yeah,
the
Could have
avatar.
lost $10,000.
Oh man, that's fucked up. Okay. So, but also we are using a different version of Alchemy in XI.
Yeah.
Can't we use the same that we are using on mainnet?
I mean, that's also a choice, and I guess this could be like an interesting discussion for tomorrow, because we do want to discuss differences between Arc V1 and V2. Postpone it from today to tomorrow. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because
there's some critical questions in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. Tomorrow discussion then.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, I don't think there's any problem with the mainnet DAO or accessing funds from the mainnet DAO. I mean, we haven't had a problem accessing.
Yeah, we like them. We like the mainnet DAO. It's awesome. It's working.
Hey, it's awesome. It's working. It has $15 million. Or something.
And,
Yeah.
10 million. But like, yeah, the XDAI DAO is apparently so. I just want to be super clear with people. This is a problem on the XDAI DAO, which is very experimental. Doesn't have any funds in it except for one DAI. So we need to. It sounds like we need to test this ARC V2 a little more. Was it audited? Has this been used? Like,
yeah. So it has been audited, and DORG has been using it for a while now. So yeah, I guess they never transferred directly from the bridge, like they've done it. Like they basically gave someone the, kind of like in a centralized way. This is how they transfer funds. So they never had a problem with that. And
where did they send it though? Like, how was it different than what we did?
Because what we did is send it directly from the bridge
to the. Why does it matter that it's coming from the bridge versus somebody else's address?
There's something to do with like Oracle stuff. The way like I understood it, something to do with how the bridge functions and how the bridge sends like funds, basically. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, we also need to know how the bridge, or the DAO stack bridge, can send alternate receiver to get Gen into the new XDAI DAO that we're going to use. Like, how do we get Gen there? And we need to know how to do that.
Yeah, I think it should be like in the same way. So like if you're sending it like from the bridge, then send it directly to the vault.
Which bridge?
Yeah, either the DAO stack bridge or I think they have a generic ERC20 bridge, right?
So the Omni bridge, if you send Gen through the Omni bridge, it doesn't work in DAO stack.
So the token you end up with on XDAI is dependent on the bridge, right? As I understand it. Because I mean, the bridge is basically, what is a bridge, right? Like it's really just a smart contract on Ethereum and a smart contract on XDAI, and the same people control both of them. And when something is locked on one side, they unlock it on the other side or mint it on the other side, right? So if you have a different bridge, it's a different smart contract. It's a different token.
Yeah.
XGen Prime. I'm calling DAO stacks XGen, and the Omni one is XGen Prime, which sounds like a transformer.
Yeah, so I guess you have to use.
You can only use XGen from DAO stack in DAO stack platform, so it has to be your bridge.
Yeah, because it has to be like it's the same address actually. Like it's the contract address on mainnet and on XDAI is the same. Like
when you use your bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks specifically for that basically hard-coded address.
Interesting. Good to know.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that DAO Stacks Bridge doesn't have alternate receiver ability. So then we'd have to send it to a person.
Yeah. I think so.
Elon, sorry. I guess what is the call that we're doing tomorrow? Is it with the general call or when are we?
Yeah, so was thinking in the general call. I won't be able to make it actually, but Ezra's gonna be talking about these things.
I don't know if this is a good general call topic. I feel like we really need to dig in here and understand what the what's going on with the XDAI DAO.
So I mean, this would be like a more general call regarding whether DXDAO wants to use ArcV2, let's say in the future, or maybe we're good with ArcV1, and then because DAO Stack also wants to focus and developing for ArcV1 and V2, it's almost double like the effort. Like every scheme needs to basically be developed twice. So like.
Right. So I don't think this is ready for the general, right? Like if we can't answer very basic questions on this call, like why can't we get the money out? Then it shouldn't be on the general call. Like this needs to be a separate deep dive. The tech people on DXDAO need to understand better what's going on before we start talking about it on a general call.
Oh, I mean, you should be able to get the money out. And then, the proposal that is out in the DXDAO, XDXDAO, I think it's going to pass in like 4 days or something. That proposal is just to make sure that you can. Because, listen, like this is still experimental. Like it should work. I mean, DORG has been using it and taking money out, so.
Did PrimeDAO, I heard PrimeDAO had some issue where they also couldn't send their native token from the DAO.
Yeah, that's also fixed. Basically, because the DAO was the owner of the ERC20 token contract, it couldn't like do actions on it, but that was fixed as well.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, it just feels like this is not well understood at this point, at least on our side or DXDAO side. So I don't think it's a good general call topic.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe we should schedule, I don't know, maybe before or after that call. I'm trying to speak to Ezra.
Yeah, any kind of, separate call with devs to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I mean, I don't know, it sounds like maybe the funds are safe or whatever, but if funds are in question here, it's kind of serious, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if funds are, like sort of not safe or lost or any of that stuff.
Right.
But there are like a couple of basically permission implications, especially like when we changed the plugin manager or when we changed the funding and voting power. Just like intricate like DAO stuff, basically.
Yeah, we need to understand. Completely what happened. I think John and me were a lot of involved about governance deployment, and I think we are the people who most understand Nico too, the DAO Stack infrastructure. And even if we are having trouble to understand what happened, I cannot imagine the rest of the people that is going to be on the call. And it is not about how we lost 5 DAI. We could have lost, I don't know, like $3,000, for example, or a bit more, right? That's a big amount of money. So it could have been way worse, and we need to understand what happened and later explain what happened and to make sure that it won't happen again.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just to us, to everyone that is using DAO Stack infrastructure, right? So the same that happened to us can happen again, even on.
Yeah, I mean, even already on the XDAI DAO, I think there's like thousands of gen staked on the various proposals. So yeah, even tens of thousands of gen. So
yeah,
so you should understand.
The first issue, and I think that's fairly like straightforward to understand, is that we disconnected the plugin manager scheme that we created a proposal to change the funding and voting power plugin. Right, make sense? Because like, does that make sense? What I just said?
Actually, I have no idea because I haven't been involved in XDAI in the XDAI infrastructure. I don't know how it works now. It seems like we will have to dig into what happened to understand. because I don't know if anyone from DXgov is able to answer that question. I'm not.
Yeah. So like this is kind of like the first issue, which is like it's a straightforward issue that you create a proposal in the schema in the plugin manager to change a plugin, and then that same plugin manager was disconnected before we redeemed the. Maybe I'll create like a quick diagram of this and I'll share it. Like
Yeah, I mean, so basically there's an order of operations thing with
Exactly.
the proposals, right? That this would happen no matter what, right? Like, I mean, you can't unplug something while you're still using it.
Exactly.
Basically, that's one problem, though. But it sounds like there's other problems as well, right?
Yeah. So yeah, there are other like small issues. I guess we'll do a recap. I think Oren is already working on that, of kind of like listing all these issues and everything we found out in the last like week or so.
Right. I mean, this sort of sounds like we need to test this. This needs to be a little more battle tested, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like we need to do some more work there, but I wanted to just quickly move on to get in a bit of Augusto's post on the DXgov vote DApp post that he made just a couple hours ago that has some good information and some great GIFs too. So Augusto, if you want to just kind of lay it out.
Yeah. Well, the idea is to start working on a decentralized application that will communicate directly with the blockchain without any third-party services, that will make good use of this modular architecture that we have on our governance infrastructure, where actually there we have schemes, contracts, we have a controller. This controller communicates with the avatar. So it allows us to have a different scheme and voting machine that it doesn't necessarily need to be supported by the current application that we are using by Alchemy, right? I can deploy. I mean, you can even interact with within a scheme if you want, just by communicating on just send transactions to it. If you can hack enough how you are communicating and sending the proposals and communicating with the smart contract. So the idea will be to start working on a decentralized application, like I said, that it will work alongside Alchemy, and it will be like a good backup operation, or we can use both of them at the same time, and eventually start growing from there on a decentralized application where we really have control over everything that happens, where we have as much control as possible, and it is as decentralized as possible, right? Because here we are depending a lot on centralized services and entities that are controlling our infrastructure, which it is good. It has been working so far, right? But for example, 6 months has passed since we raised Ether from DXtrust, Ether that has been sitting down in our treasury. We weren't able to use because we didn't have the infrastructure for it. So the idea will be to start working independently on the development of that, and everything is going to be open source, and it's going to follow the same architecture that we are using on Alchemy. Yeah, that's the idea, to start working on that decentralized application. That again, maybe the idea is to make something powerful and decentralized that it works. It won't be as fast to use, or it will take some time loading, right? Because it's going to use it's going to take all the information on chain. I'm very confident that once we have the app, we can figure out the way to optimize it, right? First, we want something that it works, that it allows us to handle funds and to make, for example, sign votes and share it across another networks and send all these votes at once, pay for governance actions on chain on the same proposal when we are interacting. And this will increment a lot and will give us, for example, I guess Nico put some hours and effort on creating the refunds for the next DXgov refunds. So that is time and effort that Nico could have used as developer working on the DXgov layer. So using an infrastructure that it will allow us, that it will refund the Ether on-chain every time that we make a vote or we create a proposal or a stake, it will allow us we won't have to bother anymore about creating refund rounds, about putting work and effort there every 2 months or every month to refund the money to or the Ether spent to the voters. Eventually automating this whole process, right? Things like that. This can be done with very minimal changes on a voting machine and reusing all the code that we have on mainnet, on our mainnet contracts. And eventually we can grow from there. We can ask the community what features do they want to integrate on this decentralized application. Eventually, if it succeeds, we are going to add more and more, and we are going to build something that is purely decentralized.
Awesome. I mean, I think the obvious corollary here is kind of, Ethereum clients and how, the redundancy of having several different options and how that's kind of important to decentralization too. So I think it's a cool effort.
Yeah, so the idea is to start working on that next month. I already started working on it. I have some code already written, but I don't have time because I've been working with DXgov and I still have some DXtrust responsibilities left for, it's going to take some time, but I want to focus on that during the next month while I'm helping on DXgov development. Eventually take over or trying to take over responsibilities of these technical initiatives on the governance level, where I'm also involved on the ERC20 guild that we are going to integrate on DXC. So yeah, that's where I'm interested and I want to work.
Yeah, I was going to say there's still a little bit of work to do on the ERC20 guild front, right? Too, before this starts. Before you start on this.
Yes, but we made a lot of progress there, and the idea is to have a DXC guild deployed by the end of the year, which I think we shouldn't have any problem reaching that goal.
Something I think is related to this too, that I've been kind of just floating the idea with some people, is engaging the auditor who has been working with us, Phil, who's been doing a great job, about kind of evaluating in a more broad sense, like what our security posture is with, not just the smart contracts, but the front ends and the monitoring and everything, and maybe even some of the products and how that ties in. Yeah, maybe a security working group. Yeah. So I think with this proposal that Augusto has up on DAO Talk, it would be great if we could put those together in some way, right? They should go hand in hand if we're going to do something like this.
Yes, there is a lot of code that we need to be audited, and it will be great. Yeah, it will be great to have someone and a security expert involved in the process.
And not just the auditing, but having him involved in the planning. So if it's something he sees, he can tell us ahead of time so that we don't have to redo things after an audit. Yeah.
We need to think the engagement, how it's going to be with him. So I guess later you can talk with Phil. You have a connection with him. We'll see.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of the coordinating, talking with Phil, and I'll probably make a DAO Talk post to talk about that.
Cool. Running out of time here. The last thing I just wanted to talk about was Governance 2.0 working group. We have first kickoff meeting is now scheduled for next Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. not sure if we'll kind of keep those times going forward, but trying to have the goal is probably like every other week to have a meeting. And so, yeah, I've done a little bit of work in terms of putting out some of the ideas in a Notion board and kind of some of the documents there. But I'll kind of send through some more thoughts on what we're trying to, what the group hopes to accomplish before the meeting. Any broad thoughts on that? A lot of people obviously in the call are very involved in the process, and anyone that is interested in getting involved, please let me know. I'll make a forum post about the specific the kickoff. But any kind of broad thoughts on this as we move forward?
It's a big deal.
Yep.
And
yeah,
just one of the ways I've kind of been thinking about it and wanted to get your guys' feedback here is, I think we have a couple different things that we've talked about for this long-term rep alignment. But there's a lot of things I think that we are talking about now that are not necessarily thinking more about like DXD guild and kind of some of these other conversations that I feel like we haven't reached consensus on. And so like, how much do we want to roll into the governance 2.0 working group to kind of find consensus on these things versus keeping that scope kind of narrow? Any thoughts?
So you say that how much of what do we want to roll into it?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different. I think the XI stuff, right? I think some of the things we're talking about, like governance experiments in general, could almost roll into this governance 2.0 group, and I think basically be like XI stuff, and then I think the DXD guild. And so I'm kind of wondering if we want to maybe include those like more medium term options in this, or kind of stick stick to kind of the long term alignment. Because in my view, some of these like medium term things are kind of part of the process of like creating long term alignment in some of those ways. But yeah.
I feel like it's worth kind of acknowledging what's happening in the 1.x stuff, but but I mean, I think the core goal of the 2.0 thing should be the long-term thing, because we can experiment with these different 1.x things and we can roll them back and we can adapt. So it doesn't need to be, some big research recommendation. But if we're going to change something core like DXD and replica or the voting machine, that's kind of a bigger deal, and that should be, I think, the focus, in my opinion.
Cool.
Yeah, we have the 1.x initiatives. The idea is that it will improve our governance platform, but it won't make any breaking changes. I think in my head, like something that goes from 2.0, it will be like a major overhaul of our system. Something that will include breaking